I'm Tianyi, and I'm the Online Content Manager for Midwest Parent Educators, or MPE. Our guest tonight is Andrew Pudawa, Director of the Institute for Excellence in Writing, or IEW. He has helped parents, students, and teachers transform many a reluctant writer through his seminars, and he'll be one of the featured speakers at our 2017 Homeschool Conference in April. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you. It is very good to be with you tonight.
Why don't we just start right away on your presentation, and then everyone else, if you have questions as you're listening, feel free just to type them into the chat window, and we'll get to them after Andrew's finished his presentation.
Okay, super. Yes, the chat window is there, and part of the benefit of being in a live webinar is the opportunity to ask questions, and one of my goals for tonight is to be sure that we do answer any and all questions that we can that come up. Tonight we are going to be talking about kind of three subjects plus saving time for Q&A at the end. Part one, how to teach writing. What is our Institute for Excellence in Writing approach? What is kind of the basic process that we teach parents so that they can teach their children? Also of significant import to many people is how to evaluate writing. You know, that's a tough subject because, you know, if it's subjective, that's hard. How do you make it objective? And we have some excellent suggestions and tools for you there. Then the next part, I'll be talking about the 4 deadly errors of teaching writing, and then answering questions. This is kind of a preview of some of the conference talks that I may be doing at the MPE in Kansas City, which I am very much looking forward to. It's been several years since I've been up there, and I remember having a great time. So, how to teach writing. We have a basic course in this. It is rather extensive. It is 12 DVDs, so you know, probably close to 20 hours of content to teach you our entire system. What I'd like to do is give you a few things you could actually try tomorrow morning if you were so inclined to do so, and then be available to answer questions about that. The first thing that I always point out is, you know, if you are going to teach writing, you have to decide to do it. A lot of people think they want to teach writing, but what they really want to do is just buy something that they can give to their students and say, here, you know, do this and you'll learn writing. Here, do this and it'll work. And a lot of the time, it doesn't work. I think all of us as homeschool parents, I certainly have had many cases where, you know, you bought this workbook type of thing that looked tremendously good at a conference or in a catalog, and then you bring it home and it just does not fit with your student at all, and you're back to square zero. So what we do is a little bit different because we're focusing on you, the teaching parent, the tutor. We're teaching you the system so that you can then teach your students at an appropriate way at all different age and aptitude and grade levels. The second decision that you really have to make, and I've tried to break this into kind of a flow chart. You know, you've decided, yes, I'm going to teach writing. The next question you have to ask is, are you going to give an assignment? Now, I know there are some people who kind of promote the idea that you can essentially cheerlead children into doing their best and working hard to learn English composition. And there is a certain philosophy that if you just do it, if you write, if you could just get kids to write whatever, anything, then they will learn by doing, and that this will accomplish your objectives. Well, there is a little bit of truth to that statement. I think a very good analogy would be music. Perhaps many of you grew up playing a musical instrument, or you have children who are taking music lessons. What would you think if the teacher said, now, the way you learn to play the piano is you go home and you sit at the piano and you kind of just, you know, fool around, do whatever you want, just experiment and do that for half an hour a day for the next 5 years. Well, would you learn to play the piano? I suppose you could argue yes. What would be the quality of piano playing? That would be questionable. So what we suggest is that you create specific assignments, or you can buy specific assignments. You can create or buy, but what we find is that for most children, you do have to give an assignment. So that's the second decision you have. Those are pretty easy. Now the third one I think is very helpful because the first two are a little bit, no-brainers. Yeah, duh, we're going to teach, we have to give assignments. Is this assignment going to be a source-based assignment, or is it going to be what I might call a brain-based or mind-based assignment? A source-based assignment is an assignment where the content for the composition comes from a source outside your own mind. Things such as reports would fall into the category of source-based assignments. You go, you find something that is interesting or good to learn about, and you collect up information, hopefully through notes, and then you represent, you tell that information in a composition. Oftentimes that activity involves summarizing, where you have more information than you can retell, so you have to limit what you retell. Another example of a source-based assignment would be a book report. You have a book and you read it, and the information from that book is put into some type of composition that essentially shows that you read and understood and can retell and maybe comment on parts of that book. A brain-based assignment or mind-based assignment, whichever you prefer, really is one where the source of information is coming from inside. It could be, an experience that you had, the stereotypical, my summer vacation type of assignment. You're accessing your memory or your imagination, and you're trying to uh, get the content from inside your mind and translate that into words, into sentences. You say those sentences to yourself. You hear what you said to yourself. You try to remember what you just said to yourself, and you write that down before you forget what you remember saying to yourself. So I think it's easier for most of us to see that the source-based assignments are a little bit less of a stress on the brain of the student. There's a process that is easier to begin with. And so what we recommend, and the way our syllabus begins, is with source-based assignments. I would point out that this doesn't mean fiction and nonfiction, because the truth is you could have a source-based assignment that was fiction. You could take an Aesop fable or a legend or fairy tale, and you could make notes from that, and then you could rewrite that. You could retell that fable, myth, fairy tale on paper, and it would be fiction, but it would be a source-based assignment. Likewise, on the other side, brain-based doesn't mean that it would be fiction. It could be based on true experience that you had, and so you're telling about, you know, uh, going to the concert, or what ballet practice is like. It could also be imaginary. Tell me about aliens on the planet Zoo who eat purple cauliflower. So don't get stuck in that area of confusing fiction and nonfiction. I think it helps a lot if you say, okay, source-based or brain-based. Now, later on down the line, at a higher level, these two things are combined, because essays and critiques essentially are where you would collect up information, and then you would have an opinion, you would have thoughts, you would comment on that information you collected up. Or you could kind of go the other way. You could have an opinion about something and then go collect up information to support that opinion. So they are combined later on. But in the beginning, and especially with young children or reluctant writers, having it clearly one way or the other is very, very helpful. Now, the fourth decision you make is probably one of the most important for many students, and that is how long. How long should this composition be? And probably in your experience, either as a student or perhaps as a teacher or using this or that language arts curriculum or whatever, you've seen assignments given in, say, number of words. Write a certain number of words about something. Essay contests, story contests are often given in a certain number of words, or a range, 500 minimum or 750 to 1,000 or something like that. Oftentimes, the type of essay you would submit for a college application would be a number of words. And of course, one of the problems with that as a way to communicate to a student length is that it's easy for a student to kind of, just start writing whatever's coming into their brain, stop after they've got some, count it up. Okay, I got 47 words. All right, 153 to go. And then they'll write some more, count it up. And you may be accidentally teaching mental math. That's possible. But oftentimes the focus is on just, going until you have enough words. So we don't recommend that as a beginning method for communicating length to students. Likewise, a lot of students, if they've been in school, particularly high school, and certainly this is the norm for college papers, and that would be number of pages. Write a 3-page paper, write a 3 to 4-page paper, something like that. And of course, one of the problems here, if you're not careful in that regard, is your students you may end up spending a lot of time playing with the margin width and the spacing between lines and the font size and practicing their page layout and graphic design skills. But it doesn't seem to be a great way to communicate length in a way that's helpful to students. So again, we don't recommend that as a starting point, but we do recommend, and as you've seen, because the nature of this presentation is that you get to see the whole slide all at once, rather than them coming in like bullet points, like they might if it were a live talk. But we recommend number of topics, because the certain number of topics will give you a number of paragraphs. I would change that little sign there you see. I'll do this. Well, I'm not sure how to do it, but you probably see there's an equal sign there. Number of topics equals number of paragraphs. That's a little deceptive, because that would only be true with short compositions of, say, 1 to 3 paragraphs. Once you had an introductory paragraph and a concluding paragraph with, say, 5 or more, then the number of topics would equal the number of body paragraphs, and so it would be more. But number of paragraphs would communicate to the student, this is how many topics you need, and then you communicate how many details per paragraph. So you can decide, your prerogative, you're the parent, you're the teacher, and you could say you should have 5 details, 5 facts, 5 statements per paragraph. I wouldn't say sentences, because sometimes you can have 2 facts in 1 sentence. You could also possibly have 1 statement and break it into 2 sentences. So I would probably say number of facts or number of details. Then if you say 2 paragraphs with 6 details per paragraph, the student then knows, I'm going to go look at my subject, I'm going to find something in an article, in a magazine, in a book, on a website, or I'm going to find something in my brain and look for 2 divisions of that and put those 2 divisions, make each one a paragraph, and then collect up 6 or 7 things about each of those, and then I have enough. Or if you have 3 paragraphs, you'd have 3 divisions or 3 topics, add an introduction, conclusion. If you wanted something longer, then you could have 6 or 7 paragraphs, and then you would collect up and have 4 or 5 topics with, again, a specific number of details per paragraph. Then this point number 3, fill in by asking questions, that pertains more to the idea of a brain-based assignment. So if you're using a source, you're kind of scanning, and the question you're asking is pretty simple, which is, which of these facts are interesting or important or relevant? And when you find one that is, put it in your outline, and then that goes into your composition. If you are writing from your experience, such as, what is baseball practice? Describe baseball practice. You'd say, okay, first there's a number of divisions. Okay, there's fielding and then there's batting. And then within fielding, you would say, okay, what are some of the positions? What do you do in those positions? What are some of the challenges of each position? What's the best? What's the worst? And you could easily come up with a paragraph with 6 or 7 statements. And the idea is to have that habit of asking questions. In fact, when I teach writing to students, depending on how old they are and how long I have with them, I'm always aiming toward, at some point, sooner or later, getting to this understanding that thinking of stuff is getting stuff out of your brain. To think of something, you have to find something that you know something about in your mind, and then you have to get it out of your mind into words and onto paper. And how do you get it out? I always tease the kids and say, if you want to be a good thinker, i.e., getting stuff out of your brain, just imitate your mom, because your mom knows how to get stuff out of your brain. And they usually laugh. And of course, how did your mom do that? And depending whatever they say, within a few answers, someone will say, well, she asks you. Right, she asks you. So to be a good thinker and to be a good writer, you must be a master question asker to yourself. So that's a theme we dwell on quite a bit in our program. And really, just having those question words, the big 6, who, what, where, why, when, how, and running those almost as a litany on any topic will often help you come up with the content that's needed. Then we have a thing called the topic clincher rule. I unfortunately don't have a diagram of it for you right here, but it is part of Unit 4 in our Teaching, Writing, Structure, and Style syllabus. And it's a very simple rule, and you could probably, I'll say it a couple times, you could even write it down. The topic sentence generally is the first sentence in the paragraph, and the clincher is what many people might call the conclusion or concluding sentence. Not the conclusion of a whole composition, just the concluding sentence of a paragraph. We call it clincher because, let's face it, concluding sentence, by definition would just be the last sentence, whatever that is. So clincher sounds like it does something. So the topic clincher rule is that the topic sentence, or the first, and the clincher sentence, or the last, must repeat or reflect 2 to 3 key words. So if the topic sentence is snorkeling in Hawaii was a great adventure, then you can tell all the things you saw and did while you were snorkeling in Hawaii. And when you get to the clincher of that paragraph, you would say something like, in Hawaii, swimming and seeing the underwater world is a fantastic voyage, right? So then Hawaii, snorkeling, underwater adventure, voyage. So those kinds of things, you can see how they would match up. This is probably one of the most powerful things I know to help students kind of instantly be more organized on paper. And then we have, and some of you may be familiar with our system, I don't know, but we have a syllabus of stylistic techniques. These are divided into categories. We have dress-ups techniques, ly, who, which, strong verb, things that are specific word uses and grammatical constructions that will add variety to the writing. So we have the dress-up techniques, the sentence openers, and those are 6 different sentence patterns, ways to start a sentence, and that again creates more variety in the writing. Then we have the decorations, the literary devices such as alliteration, simile, 3 short staccato sentences, things that add character and lively style to the writing, and then triple patterns. If you would like to see our whole list of stylistic techniques, you can do so very easily. We have an app that functions on your iPad, iPod, as well as the Android platform. So you can just go to the App Store or Google or wherever you get your apps and just look up IEW Writing Tools. IEW Writing Tools, And we have a free version that has all our stylistic techniques and lots of word lists. You can take a look at it there. It's a little reference. And we also have a deluxe version that's a kind of exhaustive thesaurus, very useful for children, built around character qualities and parts of speech so that they can organize a great abundance of words. So if you come to our booth at the conference in Kansas City, we will be delighted to show you our whole syllabus, as well as the Word Right Now, and of course our many other spelling and literature and early reading products. But time moves so fast in these webinars, and I do want to be sure and mention our philosophy about evaluating writing, because that's what's hard to do. You know, a lot of times I'll have someone say, oh, you know, could you look at my son's writing? I don't know how to evaluate. Is he too good? Is he, you know, behind? You know, should this be an A or a B? I don't know how to grade it. And this is a big topic. It's not something that we can talk about easily in 10 minutes time. We do have some resources, some in our video course, Teaching Writing Structure and Style, but also in our podcast, which is a free access to you. Just go to IEW.com/podcast. And in episodes 33 and 35, we, in a very leisurely manner, are able to discuss this teaching and evaluating writing, as well as I think you'd enjoy episode 76, where we talk about process versus product, and what are we really doing when we're teaching children writing? What are our actual goals? But what I would say, right now is that when you choose to give feedback to a child, when you choose to assess their writing, maybe you are forced in your situation, whatever that may be, to give a grade, and you have to decide, how to grade that. I think all too often we do it in a very subjective way. If you've got kids and you've got 3 and or 5, or a whole classroom of 25, and you look at their writing, it's a strong tendency to say, well, this is good, I like it, it sounds good, it makes sense, it's sophisticated, it's clever, so it gets a better grade. This is less sophisticated, it's a little more awkward, it doesn't sound good, this gets a lower grade. And of course, the problem with that type of subjective grading is that it doesn't really communicate to the student much in the way of valuable information, and it runs a great danger of rewarding natural talent, which is actually harmful to naturally talented students, because then they're deceived into thinking that things are easy and that they don't have to put out their best effort. It also can penalize students who don't have natural talent, and this can be harmful to them, because then they start to say, well, I'm not good at this, I don't know how to do it, I never make her happy, I don't know that I will ever know how to do it, I hate this. So our basic approach to evaluate writing is much more along the lines of a rubric, a checklist. So here's the things, child, that you should do in this composition. It should be X number of paragraphs. Each paragraph should have Y number of details or elements. Each paragraph should have this, 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 and this dress-up technique, stylistic technique. Here's a checklist. You can actually look and see if you did it, and you can check it off. And if you did everything, then you're finished, and that's great. And so my approach, and it's worked very, very well for me for 20 years, is that if they do everything on the checklist, they get an A. The A stands kind of for accomplished or accepted rather than excellent. If it's accomplished, it's accepted, then goal met, objective achieved. It does mean that, one A might not be as smooth a read, as artistic or imaginative as some other A, but both students got the A, and pretty much we expect that they do their best, because nothing else makes sense. If you expect a student won't do their best, then pretty much guaranteed they won't. And you can't really expect anyone to do better than their best because no one can do that. I can't, you can't. And will they always do their best? No, probably not. But then again, do we, you know? But our Heavenly Father forgives us and continues to expect us to do our best. So how can we do less than students? Less for our students. If they achieve the checklist, then again, you can look at the assignment, the next assignment, and maybe add in a little more complexity, make it a little more challenging. If a student didn't do everything on the checklist, then a couple possibilities, either you weren't clear about what's on your checklist, it might have been too vague, um, or they didn't understand, or they just need more help. And so, help, help, help. One of the funny things that I see in schools sometimes are instructions, rubrics, posters that just don't connect with the students. What the teachers bought or are using doesn't make sense. I'll give you a perfect example. You'll see these posters that say the writing process. One, pre-write, gather your ideas. Two, draft, sloppy copy. Three, revise, improve your writing. Four, publish, final copy, something like that. I'm sure you've seen these things. And I always kind of chuckle because the one that makes no sense to a 9-year-old is revise, improve your writing. The child's attitude is, come on, if I could have done this better, I would have done this better. So tell me what you want me to change and I'll change it. But otherwise, can I just be done with it? That's kind of, I imagine, what's going on in many students' minds. So that whole idea of giving feedback leads us into part 4. Rose, part 1, yeah, was how to teach writing, and we were talking about that process. Hopefully you'll get the recording. You can look at the slides later. I do want to move on into part 3 and talk about the 4 deadly errors. And again, we have explored this in a much more leisurely way in our podcast, 4 episodes, one for each deadly error. I originally conceived this talk when I first started writing it. I was going to call it the 7 deadly sins you could possibly commit when undertaking the teaching of writing to children. But a couple problems with that. One is, of course, 7 is just too many to lay on anybody in 1 hour session. Sins is just not popular. It's not attractive. And of course, we're not talking about moral issues. But there are some things you can do that can, in a way, kill your students' desire to do writing. And once that desire to do it has waned, the teaching of it becomes all that much harder. So just briefly, and again, this is elaborated on much more fully in the podcast episodes and in the full hour conference talk that I do on this subject. But here they are, the 4 errors. 1, overcorrecting. 2, holding back help. 3, unclear assignments. And 4, over expectation. Now you can see a little bit of overlap here with part 1 on teaching writing. But we'll spend a few minutes on each of these, and then we can move on to questions and answers. But overcorrecting, I think, is something that all of us have had some experience with. We may have been on the receiving side of it. We may already be in the giving side of it. But pretty much all of us at one point had that one teacher, who really liked to mark up those papers. And I'm not sure that really works too well. So there's 2 parts to this overcorrecting. There's the over part and there's the correcting part. If you talk about correcting, and just briefly think about the word correcting, what's the immediate implication? Correcting implies wrongness, right? Because you're wrong, you need to be corrected. And I don't know about you, but I don't really enjoy being wrong. I mean, I am wrong and I do need correcting from time to time. My wife knows that. But the feeling is not a positive feeling, right? So when we say I'm going to correct your paper, already it's in this creates this connotation that okay, you did things wrong. And okay, that's one case. The other reason though that it's hard to apply that in an honest way to writing is that unlike math, writing is not cut and dry. It's not really black or white. It's not always right or wrong. In math, okay, you did the problems, you got most of them right, you got a few wrong, okay, you go and you figure out, what did you miss in the process, redo it, okay, now you get it right. It's objective, and so it's not quite so painful. In writing, there are things that you can do on paper with words that are not quite legal grammatically. They'd get a red underline from Microsoft Word, right? They're not quite legal grammar, or I guess it's a green one for grammar and syntax, but they sound very stylish, and we don't want to be legalistic and stifle creativity that way. Um, and so it's not really wrong, but it is wrong, but it isn't because it's interesting, and you get in that gray area. Likewise, the opposite. You can write sentences that are absolutely grammatically perfect and sound horrible. And now, how do you come in and say, well, that's wrong? Well, there's nothing wrong with it, it just doesn't sound good. So, what I recommend you do is remove the word correcting from your vocabulary as it pertains to the teaching of children and replace it with, I think, a kinder, gentler word, a more honest word, and that would be editing. Editing. Because your editor is your friend. I write stuff, we publish, I'm writing articles, and I have an editor, and I love her. She is what prevents me from looking stupid in public, well, at least on paper. She's on my team. She helps me be, to steal the words of Matthew Kelly, the best version of myself. And I think that's what children really want, is they want someone, mom, the teacher, editor, they want someone to help them be the best they can be, not by correcting, but by editing and giving, just improving something. The over part is where we tend to just go overboard and try to, change every little thing that's a little bit awkward or that, you don't like, or the word usage, just every little thing to make it more, in our view, perfect or excellent. And then, of course, the child looks at the paper and says, gosh, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I never make this teacher happy, I can't understand, I hate this. And again, it becomes a negative thing. And I think we also have the danger of, especially for homeschool moms, is kind of over correcting verbally, over teaching. One of the ideas is, okay, we're going to conference. So we'll sit down and go over your paper, which of course means I'm going to point out everything you could have done better if only you were smarter and had. And I think some of you might be old enough to remember those Snoopy cartoons. When I was a kid, they were on TV, Charlie Brown and the giant pumpkin or whatever. And if you recall, you could always hear the children talking to each other in their characteristic voices, but the adults were in the background off the screen going wah 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 wah. Do you remember that? I think there's maybe more truth to that than we would like to admit. That maybe children, aren't actually hearing us as we are explaining all about what they did and what they could have done differently and what they should have done differently and all that. So, in short, what I recommend is take a minimalist approach to editing the paper. Fix the things that need to be fixed to make it legal and no more. Don't try to make it great. Just make it legal. Hand it back to the student. Say, okay, I've edited a few things to make this legal. Copy this over, implement these changes, and you're finished. You're done. And that gives the child, I think, a balance. He's seeing the things that were needed. He's fixing some of them. He's producing a finished version, and he's done with it. And that, of course, is the main objective for most children is just tell me what to do, and I'll do it so I can be done with it. One one thing that I mentioned earlier was the talk that the podcast we did on process versus product, and that reminds me of a scene in a movie that I think is very instructional for us as teachers and parents, teaching parents. The movie itself I found pretty boring. It was about fly fishing in Montana. Brad Pitt dies in the movie, but the scene that's priceless. It's the autobiography of Norman Maclean, the American author, and it's called A River Runs Through It. I don't know. Do any of you remember that movie, River Runs Through It? Anyway, there's this priceless scene at the beginning. There's a very young Norman Maclean. He's probably 10 years old, 11 years old. He's sitting at a desk and he's writing a composition on a piece of paper. He brings the composition into his father, this very taciturn, strict Presbyterian minister kind of guy. He's basically homeschooling these kids out in the middle of nowhere in Montana. And his father marks on it a little bit and slides it back across the table to him and says, again, half as long. So he goes back and he writes the paper again. He brings it to his father, slides it across the table. His father marks a few things, slides it back, and says, again, shorter. And so he goes back to his desk. He writes it a third time. He brings it in, slides it across the desk to his father. His father reads it, slides it back across the desk, and says, good, now throw it away. And of course, homeschool moms shudder at that. Throw it away, but that's my son's hard work. That's his effort. Throw it away. I mean, can't we at least put it in a portfolio and prove we did something? But the lesson that we need to learn from that is that, I mean, objectively, the writing of a 10-year-old child is worthless. Objectively, it's worthless, except in the case of an extreme prodigy, something profoundly cute. For the most part, it's just process. They're just in the process. They gain skill for the day. But where does it belong? In the garbage. Why? Because they'll do it again tomorrow or the next week, and they'll learn each time. And that's the priceless part, right? What they're learning each time. Not the product, but the process. So let's think about that. Second deadly error, holding back help. How many of you have had this thought go through your mind at some point in the process of teaching writing or teaching anything? You've thought, if I answer this question, and if I say this to him, if I do this for him, if I help in this way, I might be helping too much. I'll bet almost all of us have had that thought that, oh no, if I give this amount of help, I'll be helping too much. And the consequence of helping too much is he won't be learning. But what's fascinating is it's actually the opposite is true. It's when you hold back help that learning can be hindered. Holding back help can impede learning, especially in a skill. Writing is a skill. It's something you learn by doing. Think of things that end in ing. Those are skills. Swimming, painting, playing an instrument or a sport, writing. You only learn them by doing them. And what we tend to do in teaching skills like swimming and music is we overteach. I mean, think about this statement: sink or swim. Sink or swim. You've all heard that. That is the greatest misnomer you could ever apply to the teaching of swimming. I mean, really, or the teaching of anything. What if we did that? Okay, we're throwing you in, sink or swim. Well, most of the children would die and we'd go to jail. It's not a method of teaching a skill effectively. What do we do when we teach swimming? We overteach. Okay, here you can float. Okay, here you can kick. Okay, this is how you move your arms. Okay, this is how you blow bubbles. This is how you turn your head. This is how you breathe. Okay, now you can put it all together, and I'm 1 foot away from you because I will not let you fail. We overteach swimming. And I, as a violin teacher, I spent the first 15 years of my adult life as a full-time music violin teacher. I never worry about helping too much. Here, I'll show you again. Let's do it together. I'll hold the bow, you do the fingers. I'll do the fingers, you do the bow. So I have some good news for any of you who have ever felt that, oh no, if I help in this way, I'll be helping too much. You can't help a child too much. It's not even possible. Go out and try to, and you will fail. I defy you. Go out and attempt to help your child too much, and you will fail. Do you know why? Because kids will always tell you when they don't need help, right? That's what they're wired to do. So you help, 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 and at a certain point, that child's gonna say, "Okay, mom, I got it. Leave me alone." And of course, it's frustrating when that doesn't happen until they're 23 years old. But the principle is true. They will tell you when they don't need help, so don't be afraid. The third deadly error, unclear assignments. This is actually a form of holding back help. It's probably one of the more pernicious ones. And I think we all, in our experience, have had somewhere that teacher that we just couldn't really make him happy. We couldn't make her happy. The only C that I ever got in my academic career was when I took, believe it or not, English 310 creative writing at San Francisco University as a freshman. Now, you would think, how do you get a C? It was a C minus. I barely passed this class in creative writing. Well, I didn't understand it at the time. I was just frustrated. I could not make this teacher happy. I wrote poems that rhymed. She hated them. I wrote stories that were like fairy tales. She hated them. She hated everything I did, but she couldn't tell me what to do. And so if I was smart, if I knew what I knew now, I would have dropped the class. I should have got right out of there. But when you're a freshman in college, you don't even know you can drop classes. You still think you're in prison. I mean, high school. Nevertheless, what students love to know, and really what we talked about in part one tonight, is create clear assignments. Length, content, rubric checklist, exactly what's expected. And when that is clear, then the students have security. They know that they know what to do to accomplish the goal and make you happy. And if it's not clear, then it's your job. You're the parent, you're the teacher, you're the coach, you're the person who needs to be sure that it is. I remember we were one year when one of my children was in grade 7. We were using a syllabus, a published syllabus that would give general guidelines for reading and assignments and all this. And I remember seeing one of the writing assignments was, this is the sum total of the instructions. Write a story in the first person set during the Revolutionary War time period. That was it, the whole instruction. And I thought to myself, I can't do that. I mean, that's not enough information for me even to do that and know if I did it according to the goal. What was the goal? What was the objective? It's so unclear. It's a very unpleasant situation to be in. And so what I did, of course, was, knowing what I know, I took that assignment and I said, okay, length, 3 paragraphs, right? Okay. Content, first paragraph, describe the characters and setting. Second paragraph, describe the problem or the conflict. Third paragraph, the climax, resolution, and outcome. And that's part of our Unit 3 story sequence chart. And by the way, if you can't think of a problem, just borrow one from an Aesop fable. Then, since it has to be set during the Revolutionary time period, just go look in a book and make a list of places and names of people that existed in that book about the Revolution or that time period, and make those your characters. Okay, great. Then, of course, the rubric. Okay, so 3 paragraphs, each paragraph has this. Now, each paragraph also should have, and here's the stylistic techniques, 1 ly adverb, 1 who which clause, 1 strong verb, 1 because clause, 1 when while, 1 quality adjective. Okay, 4 things, at least 1 of each in each paragraph. And if you do that, okay, now you can know that you've accomplished the goals of that assignment. So if you have a syllabus or a guideline of any sort that's giving your students unclear assignments, then you need to intercede for them. And you can ask the question, if I were the student and I read this, I saw this, if this were given to me, would I know exactly what to do to accomplish that goal? And if the answer is no, then you've got some work to do. The fourth and last of the four deadly errors is over expectation. This comes from essentially two sources. One source is that we kind of panic. I think especially in the homeschool world, anything that a 10-year-old does is cute. When they get to be about 12, it's not cute anymore. When they get to be 13, we panic and think, that's not cute. That's not good. That's problematic. That's awkward. That I've only got a few years to get this child ready for college and life, and oh no, oh no. And so we tend to hit this point where we now expect adult, mature thinking and writing from someone who is not yet actually a mature adult capable of that. And this is exacerbated by the weird circumstance that pretty much every 13-year-old in the world, their full-time job is to convince you that they are older than they actually are. So you think about kids at 11, 12, 13, 14, even 15. They go through an awkward stage. They look awkward. They walk awkwardly. They talk awkwardly. They feel awkward. They feel awkward about feeling awkward. Everything is about them is awkward. So it would be kind of normal for their writing to be awkward. So don't be afraid of awkward writing in adolescence. And in the whole talk, I go through and tell a few stories about how I've experienced kids going through and growing out of that stage very naturally. The other and last source of over expectation is the one that I think is the most pernicious problem in education in America today, and that is our compulsive and compulsory need to compare our children with other people's children based on age, solely based on age. The most ridiculous thing in the world you could ever do is say, well, because these children are approximately the same age, they should have approximately the same skills or abilities or knowledge or aptitude in any given area, whether it's writing or math or music or art or history or whatever you're doing. Every child is different. You could have a room full of kids all born on exactly the same day that had exactly the same educational environment for years, and you would discover there's still a range of probably 2 to 3 grade levels in reading, in writing aptitude, in math aptitude or ability. So we really want to, I think, break free of this idea of over expectation because it can be very harmful. People will come up to me and say, I pulled my kids out of school and I'm a little worried about my 11-year-old. I think in writing, definitely he's behind. Okay, my first question is, behind whom? Who are you comparing with? Every 11-year-old boy in the world is a different person. It's not right or compare the approximate age. So all that really matters is that students are making progress. Is their skill in whatever better than it was? That's the rubric, that's the standard that we should have, and not this idea that children are a certain grade, therefore if they can't do a certain thing, they are now behind and it's a big problem. No, all of us are behind, just some people are less behind than other people. Anyway, that's the four deadly errors in a nutshell. I think you get the sense that obviously I could probably go on and on about all those. But it would be good, I think, to field any questions. There's still some of you left here, and I'm now seeing this rubric coming here. Jennifer is, I'm going to just, I think all of you can read Jennifer's question, but it looks like a good one. On the topic of overcorrection of expectation, we're to the point that my daughter is doing her own corrections as much as she can, and then I am going through and doing correction and giving it back to her to do a clean copy. Many times she will still copy the incorrect spellings. How many times do I have her correct and recopy it? Very good question. To save some frustration, I have been having her copy one sentence at a time and show me so she can fix the error continue rather than having to recopy all 3 paragraphs. Other than this one issue, she's doing fine. Well, I think, Jennifer, was that? Jennifer, you're doing a great job. I mean, fantastic. And she's very young, 9 years old. is very young. You're at the very beginning of your writing career. And so I think one of the most important things is that she is, getting good modeling of language, which clearly you're doing, and that she's having some success and not hating the process. And I think to have her copy one sentence and show you is very wise, because then she, like you said, she doesn't pile up a lot of errors and become discouraged because of that. Um, so that's good. Another thing that you could do um, is you could create a little bit of a game. I talk about this in one of my talks on motivation. It's called Teaching Boys and Other Children Who Would Rather Be Making Forts All Day. And I talk about the, the third form of relevancy, which is contrived relevancy. Um, she's copying, she's not getting those spelling corrections in. You're wondering why. Is she, just lazy or mildly dyslexic? I don't know why. You may not know why. But what I think we both probably, could agree on is that she might be able to do that better if she were motivated a little bit more. I don't know. You could test the theory, but I always point this out. How do you contrive relevancy? Create a game. So there's a few ways to deal with that. Here's a piece of paper. There's incorrect spelling words. Recopy it again. Here's another approach. I'll just do it for you. Okay, there might be some validity to that time. Here's a third approach. Sweetheart, I see on this paper 10 words that are still misspelled. Now, I think that if you work real carefully through each of these words, you can find these misspelled words and fix them. So here's the deal. If you find and fix all 10, you win $1. Find and fix only 8 or 9, you still win 50 cents. Find and fix 6 or 7, you win a quarter. Find and fix only 5, you win a dime. Find and fix only 4, it's a break-even deal. Find and fix only 3, then you owe me a quarter. Find and fix only 2, you owe me 50 cents. And if you can find any, you owe me $1, because then I'm going to have to do your work for you, and I'm not going to do your work without getting paid. So it changes it, shifts it from a chore maybe to be resented at best and argued about or procrastinated about at worst, something to be avoided. It changes it into a game that, okay, the game is find these words and fix them and get mom's buck. And you can use whatever, pennies, dollars, points, whatever. It creating an economic system gives a metric to the students, and that game then becomes a different type of challenge. So you might try something like that as well. But overall, it sounds to me like you're doing a great job, and I'm glad that she's doing fine. And I think that this problem you perceive here at this young age of 9 will be completely extinct in a year or two at most. So hopefully that answers that question. We do have just a few minutes if there's anyone else who has any question at all. I am looking forward to being at the MPE show. That is, when is that? April 7th and 8th. So that'll be a good weekend. I'm happy because it's a location there in Kansas City I can actually drive to from my home in eastern Oklahoma. I don't have to fly a whole day to go somewhere. So that'll be nice. We will have our IEW exhibit with all of our products there for you to peruse and look at and see what may be appropriate. We have some exciting new products this year, which I'll be very happy to show. We have a new American history or U.S. history-based writing lessons, a complete redo of that product, and much improved. We have a new version of the Teaching the Classics. We have our portable walls for essayists. So many things. I will look forward to being able to show you those. Until then, some of the ways that we can hopefully help you out. Our podcasts, as I mentioned, we're up to 70 some. We're up to, oh, there's my ugly mug. We're up to 70 some podcasts right now. I think they are entertaining. They're all about 20-25 minutes in length. And our webinars, the blogs, our forum where you can ask questions, and we have a whole team of people that will be sure that any question you ask on our forum is answered. The e-newsletter, sign up for that, and the Magnum Opus magazine is a selection of homeschooled student writing. And so that is an opportunity for your students to submit their writing to a magazine. We do an e-version of it 5 times a year and then once a year, so every other month, and then once a year we do a print copy. We'll have those print copies at the conference in April, and so you can pick one up for free, and hopefully it'll motivate your students to read other homeschool kids writing, and maybe they would like to submit. I see Candace is asking, is all this covered in the Style and Structure course? I just got it. Well, congratulations, Candace. Yes, if you have the Teaching, Writing, Structure, and Style course with the 12 DVDs and the book, all this and a lot more is covered in there, and in a more spaced out and organized way. So I think you'll enjoy getting in and doing that. Rose is asking, I have to teach writing 7-year-old. She can write simple stories of 4 to 6 sentences long, but how do I teach her to add IEW techniques? Well, the answer to that is one at a time, especially for a 7-year-old. So hopefully you are working with keyword outlines. So she has an outline of the 6 or 7 sentences in the short story or paragraph that she's writing. And so then you say, okay, sweetheart, now we're going to add the first style technique. It's called an LY word, or you can say LY adverb. And let's think of a bunch that would work well in your story. Make a list on your whiteboard and say, okay, now when you write this out, add in one of these words, at least one, somewhere in your story, your paragraph there. And when that becomes easy, then you can teach the next stylistic technique. And when that becomes easy, you can add another and follow the rule, easy plus 1. Are we getting a little audio confusion, or I think it's almost time to wrap it up here. How are we doing?
We're doing great, Andrew. Thanks so much. Did you have anything else to add?
No, I just I want to say, here we go. I have a 5th grader, and we'll just be starting IW. I was afraid IWA would be too easy. Can they start with B at this age? Yes, Candace, they certainly can. We say that the level A is the materials are approximately grade 3 to 5 reading level. The level B materials are approximately grade 6 to 8. So it's about reading level rather than age corresponding with grade. So if you have a 5th grader who reads very well, has a vocabulary, a pretty good aptitude for writing, definitely you can start with the level B student writing intensive or materials. Definitely that's not a problem. I always do tend to say, it is better to err on the side of being a little too easy than a little too hard, because you don't want to frustrate people. But of course, you want to find a good level of challenge. And I see Amanda has chimed in to say that, yes, they used level B with her son, and that worked out fine. So, and the other thing too, Ken, is if you should happen to buy a level materials book, whatever, and it turns out that it isn't matching that student, you can always send it back and swap out for something else or get a refund. We have had, since the beginning when I started this company in 1995, we have always had a 100% unconditional, no time limit, money back guarantee on everything we sell. So you can buy with complete confidence, and if it isn't a fit, you can always send it back, swap it out. We even pay the shipping for you. So we want to be sure that everything we sell is useful to everyone who buys it. So, all right, well, I think we are right at the 8:30 mark. It looks like we got all the questions that were typed in answered. And again, if you have any more questions about any of our stuff, you can go to our website, you can call us, you can chat our customer service team, and I will look forward to seeing you all in April. at the MPE conference in Kansas City, I guess I would just finish up by saying, you know, we've all got to get through February. It just seems like the dark time, you know. You're tired, you've been through the holidays and survived that. End of May, June, it looks far off. Let us join together and realize that one of the least important things about growing up is academics. Yes, we're homeschooling. Yes, you know, reading, writing, and arithmetic, it's important. But it's not the most important thing about growing up. The most important thing about growing up is learning to love, learning to work, learning to play, learning to understand and appreciate what's good and true and beautiful. So if you find yourselves kind of stressed and overwhelmed, know that it's okay. I, Andrew Pudawa, official homeschool graduate dad and coach of thousands, I give you permission. Just take a day off or 2 days or a week. I think you could take off as much time as you want and just play and do things that are saturating your children with that good and beautiful and true things of the world, and get the stress out and get through February and get to Easter, and then it's downhill from there because you'll be at the MPE conference in April and it's a coasting ride to June. So God bless you. Do not grow weary in doing good. Thank you, organizer, for having me in this evening.
Sure, thank you so much, Andrew. I did want to announce the winner of our drawing for a $50 gift certificate. It is Beth Kallenberger. Beth, congratulations. You'll be getting a follow-up email shortly. And you will also have the chance to meet Andrew, as he said, at our upcoming homeschool conference. Please go to our website. It's midwesthomeschoolers.org for more details and to learn more about the conference, which is April 7th to 8th at the KCI Expo Center. Just one last question, Andrew. It says, can we use IEW Level C with a 13-year-old?
Yes, absolutely. As I said, our levels are approximate reading levels. So when we say Level C, we're saying that is an approximate grade 9 to 12 reading level. If you have a 13-year-old who is a good, strong reader and has an aptitude for language and writing, yeah, absolutely, jump right in and go with the Level C.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I will stop us there. Andrew, thanks so much for talking with us tonight.
A pleasure. Adios.